of today's symposium. Okay, I'm Stamatios Papadakis, assistant professor from the University of Crete, and this time we are not going to have a workshop like we had the previous day, but I'm going to present a study we made with some colleges from my university regarding an approach we follow to educate kindergarten teachers in the use of AI tools, and then we try to analyze the scenarios they made to see how effectively introduce not only these AI tools, but how they introduce and they have enhanced their teaching practice by using multiliteracies, and in general how they transform their teaching practice even in a theoretical level by using these AI tools. Before beginning, this is something very, very recently published by the European Union. This is the action plan which European Union plans to implement in the very next years. You can see that one of the axes is the skills. It is what we also mentioned on Monday regarding the necessity of the general population, educators included, but also students, regarding the necessity of cultivating and enhancing their basic skills. And in these skills is also included their ability to work effectively and also evaluate tools, AI tools, generative AI tools, for their needs. So, I believe that the next year we are going to focus mostly in this development of skills in educational sector, in all educational levels. So, first of all, why personally I'm working with AI, among other subjects, in the preschool education or in general preschool pedagogy. The reason is that you all understand that we are facing or witnessing a transformation in how learning will change, driven by the rapid developments of educational technology. And regarding educational technology, we also refer to AI tools, AI software developments, AI applications, and so on. All of us, we are familiar the rapid development of and changes of AI tools in the last 2 years. We began with the first versions of ChatGPT from OpenAI, and in 2 years we have so many versions from multiple companies that the first versions of, for instance, AI tools, ChatGPT 3.5 and 3.5 Turbo, now seems too obsolete to our minds compared to the capabilities of the latest tools like GPT 4.0 or 4.0 Omni and so on. But especially in the early child education, we don't face AI as a futuristic concept. The reason is that there are now really good tools. Some of them are free, some of them are from labs like Google Labs, some of them are open sources that they really enable generators in our proposed kindergarten teachers or even primary school teachers to create visual create tools to help children interact more efficiently with technology, and in general to support the teaching and learning in these technologies. Just to remind you that the very young children are not able to write and read. So, by having now tools, even ChatGPT from OpenAI, which help them to dictate something and see what's written, or even in not only in the text form but in the paint, it's very helpful for them to express themselves, to remember what I mentioned on Monday. So, this, at the same time, presents both opportunities and risks, both for education, both for teachers, both for students, and of course for their families. The reason is that on the one hand, there is the potential to enrich learning with this kind of tools, which adapt, personalize, and diversity content. On the other hand, we have the fear that we must be cautious not to let technology displace critical aspects of early learning. Which are these aspects? We have already mentioned that. First of all, it's play. The learning in early childhood education is with learning. And if you remember, I mentioned the word hard fun. We just do not want children to play just to play. We don't want a childless education, but we want children to learn with play. This is the reason I mentioned that in early childhood education we need digital playground areas. We don't need digital playpen areas. So, after all this introduction, the core question is not whether if we are going to use AI. Already the majority of people, of educators around the world, although they admit it or not, they are using AI tools. And also the same are doing the university students. But the main question is if these tools are finally used to support or to diminish pedagogical values. This is the main question for all of us who are working in education, and not only in early childhood education. So, in this study, I'm going to discuss about this, and as I told you, I hope after my presentation with question to talk about it. Okay, this study, in our analysis, we were based on multiliteracies and on multiliteracies pedagogy and the learning by design framework. Maybe you are not aware about this kind of theories and philosophies. Just to very shortly to remind you, when we refer to multiliteracies, we emphasize diverse modes of meaning and making, while at the same time learning by design framework organize learning or tries to organize learning into four flexible processes: experiences, conceptualizing, analyzing, and applying. So, together, these two models can help us assess how, in our case, AI tools is used in preschool teaching scenarios, but not by analyzing the scenarios in the technically aspect, for instance, if teachers are using AI tools, but mostly in a pedagogical aspect, if these tools are using effectively to support teaching and learning. So, what is the study of this, the scope of this study? Our research focused on how AI tools were embedded in teaching learning scenarios which were designed by preschool educators. And as already mentioned, rather than simply just judging technological fluency, our analysis also centered on pedagogical richness by embedding these AI tools. And as a result, our main research questions was the following. Are children being changed in meaningful ways through AI integration in general, or simply entertain themselves with the use of these AI tools? Okay, regarding our data, was consisted of 60 detailed teaching scenarios. How we collect these scenarios? These scenarios was collected by teachers, Greek teachers, who were attended a national training program in Greece. The program had 400 hours duration. It was free, so teachers were eligible. It was like a MOOC. Teachers were eligible to join or to leave, but the majority of them follow the whole project. And after the finish of the project, we ask them, actually I'm not, the other researchers asked them, I was asked only to evaluate the results. I was not part of this project, so I'm not so subjective on the project, mostly I'm objective as an external researcher of this work. So, after the finish of this scenario, we ask the educators to create a specific learning scenario oriented to teach a specific concept in early childhood education. And in this learning scenario, as any typical scenario, the teachers had to include objective tools and, of course, learning activities. Thematic analysis was conducting using the learning by design framework to analyze the concept of these learning scenarios. And, of course, this was not a quantitative study. We did not use statistics to analyze this kind of scenario. We didn't have this kind of data, rather than interpretative analysis. And how we analyze the content of this scenario, as already mentioned, we use the learning by design framework, and we analyze it in these 4 different axes. These axes are not nearly linear, then they cycle and interconnected each other, and all these axes, they represent how learning unfolds through experience, sense-making, critical inquiry, and creative support. So, our analysis was like a cycle, not a linear one. And, okay, this model was the backbone of our study. Here, if you read the article, you can see a lot of information inside it, how we analyze the scenario, the different axes, sub-axes, and so on. But just in a few words, to tell you, for instance, in this axis, regarding experience, what we found after the analysis of the scenario, we found that this axis was well represented in the learning scenarios, because teachers started with children's memories and try to extend these memories using simulation or even AI-assisted storytelling by using appropriate AI tools. And this helped children live experience while inviting new explorations in a way to connect real experience with new. This is very important. Regarding the second axis, regarding conceptualizing, what found was that teachers in their scenarios tried to use concept maps, group classification, and inquiry question. This is very important because they didn't simply stay in rote learning or simple behavioristic approach with close-ended questions. In some cases, AI tools we found that help children connect prior knowledge to new learning. This is also important. But in some cases, we found from the scenario that unfortunately conceptualization remained shallow. Just the teachers labeling their intention to use it, but in fact there was not deeper understanding on how to effectively implement it with the AI tools. This meaning that they want it, but unfortunately still some of them, they do not have the necessary knowledge and skill how to make it happen. In the next axis, regarding analyzing, in general, based on the young age of the children, we know that this kind of cognitive skill is a bit challenging in early childhood education, but by analyzing some of the scenarios, we saw also that the AI tools can be helpful by helping or encouraging the critical thinking of children. For instance, in this scenario, children were questioned to use ChatGPT by using the microphone, not the keyboard, in order to see some translations and, what is important, to compare their own story with the aid generated. This was very nice activity, very clever option, and was found to be very useful. And this revealed us that there are powerful foundations for critical literacy in early childhood education, but effectively using AI tools. And, for instance, in more details, teachers in their scenarios, they use ChatGPT, as I already mentioned, for language and output comparison. Some of the tools they used, maybe you know them, some maybe not. It's Night Cafe, Flicky, AI, and of course the critical questioning students through their scenarios. And another axis, the last one, was the applying. And what we found was that through the scenarios, children were asked to dramatize scientific phenomena, created emotional diaries, or even retold AI stories in new ways. And what we found is that in the majority of this scenario, teachers used the AI tools as a creative partner. This is very important. And it's also very important because they used the AI tools as partner and not by replacing them. This is very important because many teachers in all educational levels have the false notion that the AI tools will replace them. But this is not true. I hope that this will never happen. But in fact, with the today technology, this is not feasible. And on the contrary, what we need from these tools is to be a critical friend or a partner in our teaching methods. And to finalize my presentation, regarding the discussion of the results of our finding, what we found that the majority of the teachers used the various AI tools they used reasonably well and in partnership with existing early childhood practices, the appropriate practices. And we also found that the creative experiential touch were well supported through their learning scenarios. And on the other side, we also found that in many times critical and conceptual dimensions, unfortunately, required further development and support. And this sounds logical to me because the majority of the in-service teachers never taught AI tools because this is a very new technology. But also the university teachers, for them is a new course, a very new course. So this reveals the necessity for innovation in education so as university teachers to include also the teaching of AI tools or in general generative AI education in their teaching and in their lessons. Some of the tools the teachers used in their learning scenarios were StoryJabber, were Canva. Canva is a very useful tool because it's free for students. For us, we have to pay a subscription, but for students it's free, and this is very good. Adobe Spark, WordWall, Padlet, ChatGPT of course, Night Cafe, and many others. What I want to mention here, or maybe some of you may ask me, is that Padlet is not an AI tool. Padlet is a Web 2 tool, and this reveals two things, one positive and one negative. The positive thing is that teachers in their scenarios try to combine well-known tools for their educational value like Padlet with AI tools. The negative scenario is that in their scenarios they are confused which are AI tools, which are not. So this also reveals the necessity of specialized training of them in AI tools and the differentiation of web tools. Of course, to summarize, what can educators do? Of course, we all understand that educators can and must support children's creativity and at the same time identify building and agency by using AI tools. But if these tools are used carefully, and to mention also what we mean carefully, especially here in Europe, we must consider GDPR policies and the EU AI Act policy, which is very, very important. And just to remind again that this is the reason that many of the tools and the companies that operate in the United States are not offering their products in the United Union territory due to the strict policies of the European Union in all these issues regarding personal data and so on. And on the other hand, even in the years of kindergarten, educators must try to educate young children or learners to start thinking and asking when using AI tools, how this is happening? Is this something magic? Why I mention that? Because many people, and of course young children, they face the phenomenon of anthropomorphism. They think that computer is something magical, and this is something more dramatically when they are using AI tools, because they think that is something human, a humanized approach. This is completely wrong. So it's a duty of teachers to try to make students of all ages think critically and of course ethically. Who made this? Is it fair? Does it feel true to me? Remember hallucinations. All AI tools, hallucination. On Monday, I think the Slovenian college who left said that one thing is sure, everything it changes. I will also mention that one other thing is also true, that AI tools are making mistakes. And if you ever use ChatGPT, you will see the message, ChatGPT make mistakes. Do not trust it. So teachers have also to teach this specific and important option to children. And of course, this study is not perfect at all. It has many, many limitations. First of all, one of the most important limitations for me, although the scenarios were well documented, they were not really tested in classroom environments. It's like something theoretical. And you know, in theories, everything seems well. But in the action, we can find the real problems. So, further work is needed to evaluate this kind of scenarios in real classroom settings. Also, the results of this study reflects a specific time and training context and content. And of course, this study must repeat as tools always involving new capabilities, new possibilities, and so on. So, from my point of view as a researcher, what are my recommendations for my colleges, but in general for future work, is that if we want more specifically analyze the capabilities of these AI tools, is that future work should include classroom work in real educational settings, also to try to evaluate child outcomes with interviews and so on, and of course cross-national comparisons, not only in specific country or even a specific region. For instance, there are a lot of studies in the Mediterranean area, but in Mediterranean area is culturally and pedagogically completely different to Scandinavian countries, to Baltic countries, or Central Europe as well. And of course, in a future study or in future studies, ethics and inclusion must be central to any future curriculum which try to involve AI tools. Okay, and as final reflections, what I would like to mention is that artificial intelligence in early childhood education, but also in general, is not about using gadgets or simply tools. Rather, it's about to learn how we teach with the use of these tools, what we value, and how we try to empower our students by the use of these tools. And what I believe is that if this is done correctly, AI tools can enhance creativity, empathy, and even reflection since the years of the early childhood education. And just a moment here, I forgot to mention that this is also the image, the 3 skills, is what now European Union calls regarding education and how we should face AI tools in education. And that's all. Thank you for your attention. I hope not speaking so much. Most of my intention was just a food for thought regarding the use of generative AI tools and our roles regarding education in all education levels. Thank you.
No, you're not getting that.
Oh, well.
First, the questions.
I hope there are no questions. To be clear enough.
Some questions?
You see, I was clear.
No, I have a question.
Okay.
Because
There is a
Okay.
there is a question. Professor?
Ladies first, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Since I'm the member of the group who is designing a new curriculum for kindergarten in Slovenia, and I think the majority of us are right now mentioned working on curricula. How did you succeed to include your sample of teachers for education or for a course of 400 hours? Because, you know, one can have wonderful ideas about what should happen in kindergarten, in early childhood, but the teaching staff is overloaded, is tired,
Yes,
is
yes.
afraid of parents, is
That's-
afraid of trying something new. So please, something about that.
Yes, that's completely. First of all, it was for 1 year duration, actually a 9 months duration, from September to June. So in a 9 months duration, the 400 hours are not so much. Secondly, it was in a MOOC, so students, teachers actually, had the opportunity to follow the content in all their needs and free hour. Of course, many of them at the beginning, we had a lot of people, many of them were drop out, like any MOOC. But what is also important is that now in Greece, the last 2 years, we have a new curriculum both in kindergarten and in primary school. I was also a member of the team who wrote the kindergarten curriculum. And it's obligatory to use AI tools, but at the same time, still, there is no official education from the Greek ministry to teachers. So there is a paradoxical. They have to introduce AI tools, but they are not educated to introduce. So when they found this opportunity, the majority of them, I suppose, they were enthusiastic, and so they were intended to follow and finish this course. But of course, as I already mentioned, we had some dropouts.
But anyway, amazing what you're doing and what you succeeded.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Professor. Just I would like to understand 2 things. One, the first thing is that yesterday also you mentioned about European policy in the context of AI. Is it for school education, higher education, for all level?
Yes.
They have.
Yes, because we are under
policy?
an umbrella of European Union. So not only education, but all aspects of social life must follow GDPR rules and the EU AI Act action. But especially in the education, yes, they were very strictly how educators are handling students' personal data.
Okay. And in that, sorry, my another question is that I will discuss after. My another question is related with, as you mentioned that you asked this participant to develop a certain scenario, okay, and because using any ChatGPT or any Gemini or anything, particularly, we have to be very clear about the prompt, what sort of prompt we are giving, and I think where the skills which you have mentioned, creativity or other imagination, other things will come, because it totally depends on what sort of prompt we are giving to that AI, any AI tools. So
Yes.
I think the scenario, and then the scenario you have analyzed, I think I didn't understand properly. I will discuss detail, but just I would like to know that is it the prompt you have asked the participant to give in such a way that the content will cover, or the different types of skills and competency will be there? What exactly the nature of it?
We analyze the scenario. In the scenario, teachers had to use AI tools among any other tools. As you already saw, they use also Web 2 tools and so on. But prior to, in the scenario, some of them wrote specific prompts to use with its students. Some of them didn't specify the prompts because they used AI tools to create educational content. So some of them used a specific approach, some of them just use the outputs of the AI tools to enhance their learning scenarios with their students.
Okay.
They use two different approaches, which personally believe both of them, these two approaches, follow the same rule, how to enhance their learning approach with the students. And of course, during the course, we had specific lessons how to effectively prompt with AI tools like ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude of the Anthropic, and so on, Copilot.
Would you change the curriculum of teacher training after analyzing this scenario?
Yes. We try to focus more because we found in some aspects some of the teachers were more a little superficial. They just use AI tools but without specific outcomes. So yes, we want to focus now exactly this, not just to say I use tool but just to use it, but to extract specific outcomes from this tool.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.